Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Thomas Smale, who is the CEO of FE International, an award-winning global mergers and acquisition advisor of SaaS, e-commerce, and content businesses. Thanks for joining us, Thomas.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So, Thomas, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
Okay.
All right, so the first one. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Bay Area, California, where I live right now.
Okay. Your favorite flavor of cake?
Anything with vanilla.
Okay. What's the first thing you notice about someone when you meet them?
What they're wearing.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
No more than 5 minutes.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
I don't get embarrassed.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Focusing more on email marketing.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened?
Dublin, when I got married.
Okay, pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey?
Zuckerberg.
The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition?
Gladiator.
When did you last cry and why?
6 months ago when a family member died.
How do you relax?
Playing sports.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
At least 2.
A habit of yours that you hate?
Being a perfectionist.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Communication.
And the last question is your favorite Netflix show?
I don't watch much Netflix. I'll pass the last one.
Oh, okay. Well, that was almost 10 on 10, so it's 9 on
Nearly.
10. You scored 9 on 10 and you win a car. Just kidding, you do not win a car. You don't win anything, but you just go on to the bigger questions now. The first one is, how successful have you been at selling e-commerce and SaaS businesses? Could you illustrate this with a case study?
I guess like case study of FE International, the company, over the last 11 years, we've sold over 1,100 businesses, and the total value of all of those deals is well over $1 billion. So in terms of size within the industry, we're definitely one of the largest companies, and we've worked with people who sell businesses anywhere from $20,000 in the early days of FE International to we're working on deals which are $100 million today. So I guess I do not have a good individual case study, really just a combination of 1,100 different stories, different sellers, different buyers. For almost all of our clients, it's life-changing when they sell, whether they sell for $500,000 or $50 million. It's vast majority of the time it's life-changing. So I think it would be unfair to just look at one case study because it's all completely relative to the individual. So I guess I'm proud of the fact we've done 1,100 deals, but I don't necessarily have like a favorite deal or a least favorite deal or anything like that.
Okay, so well, I guess case study is a bad name to put on it. Let's say then, could you tell us about a deal that was interesting in some aspect? It doesn't have to be like the best deal, but some story that stands out.
So I've had a deal I can remember quite well as we worked on a business. It was quite a small deal, so it was definitely not one of our biggest. So for the average person in our team or the average person looking publicly, you wouldn't really think anything of it. I remember meeting the seller after we completed the deal. He lived in Vietnam, so a lot of our clients are international, like Southeast Asia. Meeting him after the deal had closed, he used the proceeds of the sale to buy a house. And I remember he wanted to introduce me to his family because it was such a big thing for him and like so life-changing. So that's definitely one that stands out that I remember just from a life-changing element. It doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest deal we've ever completed to be life-changing. And that's ultimately the part that I guess is like fulfilling and defines success for us. It's doing something for someone that they otherwise would not be able to do themselves. and creating a situation where for him and his family, they were set for life and own a house that otherwise they wouldn't be able to afford.
Brilliant. And you went there like before Corona, I suppose. This
Oh
was
yeah,
ages
so
ago.
we used to travel a lot more than I do now. This is probably 2 years ago now.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So, in your words, then, how would you describe what FE International is all about? Now that you've told us about an interesting story, but now if I was to ask you the first question that I should have asked you, tell me what FE International is all about. What are your goals? What are your inspirations? What are your ambitions?
So I guess our ultimate goal is helping founders have successful exits. So educating them and helping them get into a position where their business can be sellable. So we start with a valuation. We offer anyone a free valuation. So if you come to us, even if you're not thinking of selling now, we're happily put together a valuation. So helping founders understand what their business is worth today, and then understanding what they might need to do to get it to the level they want to sell it for. So it may well be that someone comes to us now and gets a valuation for $1 million and they want to sell their business for 10 million. But understanding where they are now is helpful. And then we can give them advice, what they need to do to get to the next level. Or it may well be that they're at $1 million today and they want to sell for $1.2 million. And the plan to get there might be completely different. So I guess that's part of what we do. And then we help manage the entire acquisition process from that initial valuation through to closing the deal and getting cash in the bank. So we then prepare, assuming someone wants to work with us, we put together a 30 to 50 page prospectus about the business. Once we've done that and gone through an entire audit process of making sure financials are accurate, the business is presented properly, operationally everything makes sense. We then run a process with buyers where we reach out to buyers who are either in our existing network looking to buy a company, private equity firms, other investors that we reach out to manually. So we have a whole team who research potential buyers for a deal. We'll then negotiate to get the best possible deal we can. So multiple offers, multiple bids, work to get the highest offer or the best deal. And then we work from there to due diligence, contract negotiation, all the way through to closing the deal. But so ultimately our aim is to help more founders have successful exits. And we do that with a very much hands-on process. Because I think our observation in the market is a lot of people try sell their business themselves. And there are either two things that happen. Either you try sell yourself and you just fail because you don't know what you're doing. Or two, you try sell yourself and you do sell, but the founder does not get the best deal possible. So it may well be that you can sell your business yourself and you get $10 million, or you could have hired us and we could have got you $14 million. So yes, on paper, you were still successful selling for 10, but you left $4 million on the table, not hiring a firm like us who can get access to more buyers.
And what, according to you, I guess it's a generalization, but what, according to you, is a good time for an exit?
Well, it wouldn't be according to me at all. It'd be according to whoever owns the business. It's when is the right time for them. So usually, when does it hit the valuation that makes sense to the owner of the business? Or when does it make sense from a personal perspective? Which is why I can't tell people when it is. It might be when you want to start a new business. It might be you want to pay off some debt. You might want to buy a house. You might want to retire. That's a very personal decision, which is partly why we offer free valuations, because the decision is usually also driven by how much you can sell for. There's a big difference between getting $1 million and $10 million. Your options are different in both scenarios. So the best time is always when it makes sense for you. And I say most founders know when that time is. It's just hard to describe exactly what it looks like until you've been in that situation.
So what was the mergers and acquisitions business like during Corona, before Corona, and after Corona? Like, what are some things that you've seen?
So I guess before Corona, the industry has been growing steadily since we started FE in 2010. More and more businesses coming online, more and more people looking to buy businesses that primarily sell online, whether that's SaaS, e-commerce, content. We work on a range of different business models, but the commonality is they're all online businesses and can be run from, in most cases, anywhere. So the industry has been steadily growing for like the 9-10 years leading up to the beginning of Corona. Then when Corona hit, I guess the industry suddenly accelerated because a lot of businesses were suddenly forced to move online. It became a lot more normal to work from home and work remotely, which I guess is most of the businesses we sell and represent have a remote team. They already work from home. So that brought new people into the space. And I guess some companies as well were forced either to make acquisitions in the space or in some cases sell. Some people decided Corona was the best time to sell. Some businesses did really well during Corona. Some businesses did really badly, and some did okay. So it was definitely an interesting time because there were lots of new people coming into the industry, but also some who were kind of forced to be in the industry by circumstances, but also a bit of a cultural shift towards remote work, which is something that we've been pushing with our clients since we were founded 11 years ago. And then post-Corona, if we've got there yet, I don't know if we're exactly there, depending on where you live in the world. I think that baseline has now been set. While I'm of the belief that a lot of companies will go back to the office, a lot of people end up going back to the office and not working remotely forever. There are now a lot of people, like the average consumer who's now moved online, who may have previously gone to a retail store to buy a product. Those people will now forever buy online. So it's just a lot more people in the industry in general, which means if you have an e-commerce store or a SaaS business, content business, you now have a bigger total addressable market in almost all cases because there's more people online, more people buying online. So I think it's good for the business and good for the industry overall. And we only expect it to continue growing as remote work it's not going to, I don't think it'll ever become 100% of businesses, but it's much more socially acceptable now. So if you want to buy a business with a remote team, the average person would now understand that. Whereas 10 years ago, when FE first started, it was much less common and people wouldn't really understand it at all.
So does your team at FE work remotely as well? And also, what does your typical workday look like? Yeah, your personal workday.
Yeah, so I guess my personal workday and the team's slightly different. So most of our team are based in New York. They are actually back in the office. We've always been an office-based company. We do have some team members who are remote, but the majority are in the office in New York. We have a team in London as well. Part of the reason we're in the office specifically is, firstly, our job is to meet people on a consistent basis. And the work we do is very team-based. If you work with FE, you don't just work with one person who does everything throughout the process. We have lots of different teams. So you usually have a senior person working on a deal from the start, whether that's me or my business partner or someone else, and then multiple other people. So we like the team environment you get in an office. At places like New York, they haven't really gone very remote anyway. Like the culture in New York is people like to work hard and be in the office. My usual day, so I start work at 6 a.m. I usually have calls, usually for most of the morning. So usually from 6 a.m. till midday, I'm on the phone or on and off the phone, usually doing internal meetings. That will continue on. I usually work until like 5-6 p.m. And then I usually stop for a couple of hours. I might go to the gym or go do some sport or just have some form of break. And then usually back in the evening around 9-10 p.m. I'll come back and do a little bit more work, which is usually reviewing things. So as CEO, a lot of my time is spent reviewing work, giving feedback, dealing with issues that might have come up throughout the day. But it's usually reviewing things.
And what could you explain your typical process? Like, how do you decide who to invite to the first round of bids when you're doing valuations and everything?
Yeah, so once we've listed a company and the sellers engaged us, so we have an internal CRM where we track lots of different data. on buyers. So the very first place we start is with our CRM, and we reach out to buyers who have criteria very close to the business we're selling. So if it's a $10 million SaaS business and someone says they have a $10 million budget and they want to buy a SaaS company, then they will be in that first group we reach out to. So it's always very segmented. And then when we reach out to potential acquirers, like I said, we have a whole team of analysts who are researching potential buyers. So it might be that we'll reach out to private equity firms who in their portfolio companies have a business that's similar to the one that we're representing. Might do the same with public companies, other individual investors in the space, other businesses in the industry who might be a strategic acquirer. Or we will look at businesses where we think that acquiring the company we're representing would be good for their business. And then in each of those cases, we will craft a different message to that person or to that company based on what's relevant. So we don't just blast out the same message to 2,000 different acquirers. It'll be a different message depending who they are. So if they're in our network of existing acquirers, it'll be along the lines of, hey, you said you were looking to buy a SaaS business, you have $10 million. Here's a SaaS business for $10 million. If it's a private equity firm who have bought something similar before, we'll say, we're representing this business. We know you acquired business X. I think you should look at the business we're representing because it's a good fit for your portfolio. So very personalized. Like I said, we don't just blast out emails or phone calls to random companies with random messages. It's very detailed. An entire team whose only job is buyer research or potential acquirer research, and then a very personalized approach to how we speak to each of them.
And what do you focus more on, buyers or sellers?
So from a marketing perspective, a lot of our focus is on sellers, because with sellers, a lot of it is education, like teaching founders how to increase the value of their business, how to make sure their business is worth more, how to value a business, all sorts of other things around building a successful business. Whereas with most buyers and most investors, generally speaking, we're dealing with quite experienced investors who have already know how to invest. So they don't necessarily need us to teach them. We'll probably need to find them and reach out to them and say, hey, you should buy this company we're representing. But that doesn't require a huge amount of education. That just requires us being able to find them. Whereas with founders and sellers, the information today, you have podcasts like yours, and there's lots of great podcasts, lots of great information out there. So you can learn a lot. 10, 11 years ago when FE started, there wasn't a huge amount of good information out there. So we had to teach people who didn't even know you could sell your company what to do. These days, there's a lot more good information out there. But when we started, there wasn't anything. Hence why our marketing's always been quite seller-centric, because it's really focused around kind of teaching sellers how to sell, when to sell, and some of the other things we've spoken about.
And how did FE start? Like, how did this idea come about? Like, what made you embark on this journey?
So I guess the short story is I started buying, selling domains and small websites myself. Didn't have any money because I was a student at university. So learned to sell websites and domains myself. And again, but back then, this is 2008, 2009. These were all on like forums. There weren't really any marketplaces. There were definitely no brokers or M&A firms doing any sort of volume in the space. There was no information at all. Whereas now there's, like I said, much more. Started being quite successful at that and built up a reputation in the industry for being someone who regularly sold very small websites. We're talking $1,000, $2,000. And then people with, based on the content we had been producing, people with established businesses started approaching like me and the small team we had at the time saying, hey, I've got this business. Can you help me sell it? So that's exactly what we did. We started selling. At the time, what we did didn't really exist in the industry. So it was new. While M&A has been around for a long time in the industry, all deals got done privately. There were not any advisors you could hire. And then from there, it really snowballed from a reputation perspective. So when we were founded in 2010, more and more people would come to us know that we were the place you could come to if you wanted to sell your business and you didn't want to do the work yourself. And then it's just grown and grown. Like I said, we've done 1,100 deals now. So founders will talk to other founders when they successfully sell. Buyers or investors will talk to other buyers or investors. And people will share content. They'll read our content around how to value businesses, how to sell businesses, what the process looks like. They'll listen to podcasts like this and they'll share it. And it just generally brings more people in. And over time, the company has grown.
So speaking of which, how does your company help other businesses come up with its valuation in the first place?
So yeah, over the course of, I said, closed 1,100 deals. Every single time we close a deal, we track thousands of different data points on every single business we sell. So you name it, we track it. And over time, we've built a proprietary database and valuation tool, which pulls in different variables. Effectively, I'm oversimplifying what the team have built, but it pulls in the variables from all the different deals we've sold. And when we value a business, we can look at similar companies we sold, compare the variables, and establish what it's most likely to sell for based on deals we've done in the past. A lot of people, valuation is a difficult space because you have to have the deals to be able to accurately value. So we have them. And there's also a lot of misinformation out there around valuations. So a lot of people have published information about valuations based on maybe one deal. So one person has sold a company and they've got an amazing deal, and they will then publish it and imply to everyone that that's what every company sells for. So a lot of our time with valuation, as well as actually making sure we are accurate, because we want to make sure that our valuation is accurate, is making sure that the seller is educated to understand that our valuation is accurate and that a news article they read on TechCrunch or something like that is not necessarily the most accurate view of valuation.
And so how can one increase the valuation of a company for getting acquired? Like, are there any tips that you could give?
It depends a lot on the business itself. But I mean, in general terms, a growing business is more valuable than a business that's not growing. A business that has, again, depending on the size, a team in place and processes in place that mean that the owner or the founders or multiple owners of the business is not reliant on them. So the less reliant a business is on the founder or the founders, the more valuable it will become. Depending on the business model, there'll then be like specific metrics that matter. So for example, in SaaS, it might be revenue churn or net revenue retention. That's a very important metric. In e-commerce, it might be repeat order rate. So how many people buy a product and then come back and buy another product. In content businesses, it might be how many keywords you're ranking for and what that growth has looked like over time. So industry specific metrics will then help a business be worth more. Another would just be the general long-term outlook of the industry the business is in. We generally focus on companies that are evergreen, or in other words, businesses that are in industries that will continue to be popular in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years time. We rarely work on businesses which are following a very short-term trend. If an industry has just been created in the last 12 months and someone's built a business around that industry, we're generally not helping them sell at that stage because it's a little bit early. So businesses that target a market that's been around for a while and in the future is most likely going to be around are usually popular and more valuable than those that are early stage. So say usually they're the main things. And then obviously from a valuation perspective, also depends how you sell. If you hire an M&A firm like us, we have a huge reach with potential buyers. So a lot of valuation is driven by how many buyers see the business, how well you present it, how many bids you can get, versus trying to sell yourself, which, yes, you might be able to find a couple of buyers, but there's no way by yourself can you reach as many buyers as we can. So that's another driver of valuation that a lot of people don't think about. It's like how and where you sell.
All right. So, well, the last question I have for you is actually, what would you be doing if not this?
That's a good question. I've done this all of my work life. I think if I were to like move on career-wise, it'd probably be kind of investing and mentoring in other entrepreneurs in the space who are early on. I've been running a business successfully now for 11 years, like have started to do it as part of FE International, but I think investing in helping people like the next generation of entrepreneurs would be the most fulfilling thing for me.
All right. Well, that's the end of the interview. Thanks everyone for joining us for a month's episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. That was Thomas Smale, who is the CEO of FE International, an award-winning global mergers and acquisition advisor of SaaS, e-commerce, and content businesses. Thanks for joining us, Thomas.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.